After my son pushed me down the stairs, I discovered an incredible strength within. This is my life. Sarah lay there, breath knocked out of her, heart racing with disbelief. The world spun for a moment as she remembered the heat of the argument. Jake, her once bright-eyed boy, had shoved her out of frustration, leaving her wondering where it all went wrong. The laughter that once filled their home felt like a distant memory, replaced by screams and slammed doors. But as she slowly pushed herself up, wincing at the pain shooting through her body, something ignited within her, a flicker of resilience she thought had been lost. She stared at the familiar walls of their haven, the ones adorned with family photos, each capturing a happier moment. But now, they seemed to taunt her with what they used to be. The weight of her responsibilities as a single mother loomed heavier than ever. Jake's rebellious streak had spiraled, his anger, a dark cloud that overshadowed their lives. She felt isolated and overwhelmed, fighting a battle both inside and out. As she stood up, shakily leaning against the railing, Hannah, her neighbor and friend, rushed to her side. "What happened, Sarah?" Her voice was filled with genuine concern, a gentle reminder that she wasn't alone. Hannah's warm smile offered solace. But Sarah felt no solace tonight. All she felt was an ache in her chest, the fear of failing her son creeping in like a shadow. Over the next few days, while tending to her bruises, Sarah dug deeper into her emotional wounds. She realized that she was still holding on to things that weighed her down. The economic strain of Maplewood, the rising rents issues that left their community struggling to thrive only added to her burdens. Every shift spent nursing the sick felt heavier. Yet, they also reminded her of the resilience her father had instilled in her, the proud veteran who always said, "Strength comes in many forms, Sarah." Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Pushing forward, she decided to reach out to Jake. They tried family therapy, but it felt like pouring water into a leaky bucket. Neither of them got anything out of it. Each session seemed to amplify their misunderstandings and frustrations. Fists clenched, Sarah walked home, hopelessness creeping in. Then came the annual summer fair, Maplewood's bright splash of color in a gray world. They navigated through booths, laughter ringing in their ears like a cherished song. Just when Sarah thought she could catch a glimpse of her son's potential, darkness loomed again. Jake stood at the edge of a reckless decision that could change everything. In that moment, surrounded by the pulse of the fair, Sarah felt an awakening deep inside her. Would she find the strength to confront this choice and truly connect with Jake, or would history repeat itself as she grappled with daunting fears? The night glimmered with hope, but uncertainty loomed heavily above them like a storm. As the fair came to an end, Sarah's heart raced, caught between love and despair. Was this their moment to pivot, or would they remain lost in the shadows? As the vibrant lights of the fair began to dim, Sarah felt the throat-tightening weight of the moment. Jake had wandered off, his silhouette outlined against the backdrop of cheering children and joyous families. She searched for him, anxiety creeping in as she brushed past the crowds, game booths, and cotton candy stands. "Jake!" She called out, her voice tinged with worry rather than anger. She spotted him at last, standing by the edge of the Ferris wheel, arms crossed defensively. The air around them felt charged, as if a storm were brewing just for them. She approached cautiously, each step heavy with unspoken words. "Hey, buddy. Can we talk?" He turned, a flash of rebellion igniting in his eyes. "What's there to talk about? You just don't get it." "What don't I get?" She pressed gently, determined to bridge the chasm that had formed. "Everything's always about you. You don't see how hard it is for me." Fury bubbled forth, seemingly directed at her, yet Sarah could sense his own turmoil underneath. He was hurting, just as she was. That thought steadied her racing heart. "I do see it," she replied, keeping her tone even. "I feel it every day." but pushing me away won't help. I want to understand what you're going through, but I need you to let me in. Jake scoffed and looked away, his defiant demeanor wavering. It's not that easy. His vulnerability hung in the air, and Sarah felt a spark of hope flicker within her. I know it isn't. But maybe if we face it together, it could be a little easier. Silence enveloped them, a moment heavy yet necessary. The sounds of laughter faded, replaced by the rhythm of their racing hearts. Finally, Jake turned to her, uncertainty flickering in those familiar blue eyes. I don't want to feel like this, Mom. I hate being angry all the time. Her heart swelled, a mix of relief and understanding flooding in. Neither do I. We can help each other. We can work on this. Let us find a way to talk about it without getting to that point again. He hesitated, processing her words as the Ferris wheel glowed behind him in swirling colors. The sight tugged at a memory of simpler times, of spinning together, giggling at the view from the top. What if it doesn't work? He finally asked, vulnerability etched across his face. That's okay. We don't have to have all the answers right now. What matters is that we're trying, Sarah assured him, stepping closer. Together. The flicker of doubt in Jake's eyes began to dim, replaced by a glimmer of hope. Just then, a nearby ride whirred to life, the laughter of children swirling around them. For a moment, it felt like a safety net cradled them, and there, amidst the colors and joy of the fair, Sarah and Jake shared a fragile connection, one that could mend their hearts. But as they stood there, with the vibrant scene unfolding around them, a sudden loud crash echoed from nearby, breaking the moment of peace. They jumped, instinctively looking toward the source, dread creeping back in an unwelcome wave. What would this new chaos bring? Sarah's heart sank, but she held her ground. Let us go see, she encouraged, igniting the flicker of strength within her once more. What would they face together next, and could they find the strength to navigate it? The crash echoed like thunder, jolting Sarah and Jake from their fragile moment. They turned in unison, their hearts pounding, the fair lights flickering ominously in the distance. A crowd was gathering, murmurs morphing into an anxious hum as people began to point. Let us go, Jake said, his voice a mix of fear and curiosity. He started to move, and Sarah followed, her heart catching in her throat. They hurried through the throngs of people, the scent of caramel apples and popcorn lost amidst the growing tension. As they approached the scene, a small ride had tipped over, metal creaking and children crying out in shock. A little girl, no older than 6, sat on the ground, her face streaked with tears, her friends hovering around her, unsure whether to comfort or flee. Jake's protective instincts kicked in. Mom. She looks hurt. His eyes widened, the previous anger replaced by concern as he stepped forward. Wait, Jake. Sarah held out her hand but softened when she saw his fierce determination. She could feel his heartbeat matching her own, rapid and anxious. We can't just stand here. Jake pleaded, stepping onto the edge of panic, heart racing. Sarah felt the weight of the moment press down on her. These were the moments that defined them, when fear faced compassion head-on. She moved closer, guiding Jake gently by the shoulder. You're right. But let us help wisely. We don't want to make it worse. They pushed through the crowd until they reached the little girl, her small body trembling. Sarah knelt beside her, forcing her professional instincts to the forefront. Hi there, I'm Sarah. What's your name? Annie, the girl whimpered. Hey, Annie, can you tell me where it hurts? Sarah's voice was steady, soothing. She caught Jake's eye and nodded, silently urging him to help. He dropped down beside the girl, offering comfort that only a fellow child could. It's okay, Annie. You're going to be all right, he reassured her, his voice softening. Just breathe. We're here. The cuddly figure of a clown approached, attempting to distract the children with balloon animals, its painted smile too wide to be genuine. But Jake, normally prone to laughter, remained vigilant, unwilling to let the distraction pull anyone's focus away from Annie. Hey! We don't need that. She needs help, not clowns. He called out, standing up to the adult who was only trying to lighten the mood. Sarah admired his sudden leadership, his protective nature slicing through the fear that had shackled them moments before. As first responders finally appeared, the air shifted. A sense of relief washed over her, but it quickly wove back into worry. Would Jake allow himself to be vulnerable enough to talk to her about this, about the emotions they shared? Turning back, she found him by Annie's side, helping the little girl to her feet as if they were instant friends forged in that very moment. The noise of the fair faded, the dazzling lights dimming in the back of her mind, replaced by the powerful, pulsing connection Jake was forming. Jake? She gently tugged his arm, pulling him away from the scene. Can we grab a snack? Maybe some cotton candy? His brow furrowed as if he was weighing it against the heavy heart of the scene. I guess, but together, we can handle whatever else comes our way, she offered, hoping this would be the first step away from the chaos. He nodded slowly. Okay. Together. But even as they walked away, she sensed an undercurrent of tension lingering just beneath the surface, unspoken feelings flickering like the fair lights. Would they truly find a way to navigate this new landscape of emotions? As the hustle of the fair carried on, the clash of laughter and joy felt distant, and Sarah realized their journey was just beginning. What awaited them beyond the sugar-coated stalls? What unspoken truths had yet to surface, and when would the storm finally break? The cotton candy stand loomed ahead, a beacon of sugary sweetness amidst the lingering tension. Sarah inhaled deeply, trying to shake off the heaviness that felt like a weight on her chest. What color do you want? She asked, forcing a smile as they approached the vendor. Pink. Jake yelled, brightening up as he bounced on his feet. The way his eyes lit up sent warmth through Sarah, flickering hope into the cracks of their earlier worry. She ordered 2 cones, handing Jake the pink one decorated with sparkles. He looked at the colossal, fluffy creation as if it were pure gold. He took a big bite, a cascade of sticky sweetness coating his face. Laughing, Sarah wiped at the candy dusting his cheeks. You wear it well. Jake giggled, his laughter washing over the remnants of the chaos. But as they stood in line, she felt his mood waver. He kept glancing back toward the chaotic scene where the ride had tipped over. The laughter of children swirled around them, but it felt like he was in a different world, one where hurt and fear mingled with their candy-coated moment. Mom? He asked suddenly, his voice small. Yeah, buddy? What if that girl needed more help? Like what if she didn't come back to the fair? The question hit Sarah with a jolt. Sometimes, things happen unexpectedly, Jake. It's okay to feel sad about it. She paused, realizing the weight of her words. But the best thing we can do is help when we can, and know that we did our part. I wanted to help, Mom, he admitted, his eyes clouding as the lightheartedness faded. But I was scared. I know, she said softly. It's okay to feel scared. That just means you care a lot. She looked into his eyes, searching for understanding. What matters, Jake, is how you respond. When we do good, even when we're scared, that's what courage looks like. He nodded slowly, processing her words like a puzzle being pieced together. Can we go back? You know, to see if she's okay? Sarah hesitated. Her instinct said yes, to face it together, but the idea of walking back through that crowd of facing the emotions all over again felt huge. Yet, looking at Jake, she could see the determination in him, a desire to be strong like she wished to be. Okay, she finally said. Let us go check on her. They maneuvered back through the fairgrounds, the scents and sounds now a stark contrast to the tightness enveloping them. As they neared the scene, the chaos had settled somewhat. A small group remained, with the little girl now sitting on a stretcher, a comforting blanket bundled around her, surrounded by her friends, who looked far more reassured. Annie's tears were replaced by smiles and soft giggles as the paramedics tended to her. Jake stepped forward cautiously, Sarah right behind. Just as they reached her, Annie caught sight of him. You! She exclaimed, pointing. You were there. Yeah. Jake replied, stepping closer. How are you feeling? Annie's face lit up. I'm okay now. They said I just need to take it easy. Sarah felt an unexpected surge of relief wash over her at the sight of the little girl's smile. All of the fear and uncertainty shifted into something different and beautiful, woven tightly by the bonds of compassion that had formed in this very instance. Jake turned towards Sarah, his expression brightening. "See, Mom? She's all right." "Yes, she is," Sarah smiled, catching Jake's excitement. At that moment, she realized, standing in the middle of something raw and real, they would always find their way back to each other through their fears, their insecurities, their tears. As they turned to leave, a voice came from behind them. "Hey! Wait!" Annie called out. They looked back to see her waving, her cherubic face beaming under the soft glow of the fairground lights. "Thanks for helping me." Jake beamed at her. "You're brave." "Not as brave as you," Annie replied, eyes shining. Jake glanced at Sarah, proud of his actions. With the fair sparkling around them, the atmosphere shifted again, and for the first time since the crash, things felt hopeful, even luminous. Still, as they made their way away, Sarah felt a lingering thread of unease in her heart. Could that shared moment of bravery ripple outward, touching the threads of their lives in unpredictable ways? What those moments uncovered in both of them? It was a quiet promise that something else was lurking in the shadows, waiting to reposition the ground beneath their feet once more. What would be the next storm they faced together? The vibrant colors of the fairground melted into the backdrop as Sarah and Jake walked away from the scene. The laughter of children echoed around them, but it felt distant, like a song fading into silence. Sarah glanced back at Annie, still wrapped in her blanket, surrounded by friends. That moment of relief was like a small light in her chest, but the unease lingered, looming just outside the edges. "Mom, can we ride the Ferris wheel next?" Jake asked, pulling at her hand, the tension fading from his voice. His excitement felt infectious, but Sarah hesitated. The Ferris wheel was towering, spinning over the fair like a giant watching over everything. She knew it would be safe, yet the thought of being so high up, away from the ground, made her uneasy. "Maybe we could find some games to play first?" she suggested, hoping to redirect both of their thoughts. "Okay." Jake's eyes sparkled as he enthusiastically headed towards the row of booths, his spirit buoyed again. Yet Sarah couldn't shake the nagging question hovering in her mind. What if things really did change? What if her courage didn't hold? At the first game booth, they played ring toss, and as Sarah watched Jake toss the rings, his concentration etched on his small face, she felt a warmth surround her. He missed the first few tries but didn't falter. Each time, he picked up the ring with determination sparkling in his eyes. His persistence reminded her that strength came in many forms. After winning a stuffed bear, Jake raised it high, a triumphant battle cry escaping his lips. "Mom! Look what I got." Sarah couldn't help but chuckle. "That bear is almost as big as you are." As they wandered from one game to another, Jake's laughter enveloped her, making the shadows feel like mere whispers. Yet, with every step they took, the unexpected fear crept back. She couldn't escape the awareness that life had shifted. The world that felt secure was suddenly brittle, subject to uncontrollable changes. "Want to take a break?" she finally asked, realizing they had been darting from booth to booth. Jake nodded, and they made their way toward a quieter corner, where families sat munching on popcorn, the scent wafting through the air. "Mom, can we sit here?" Jake asked, flopping down on the bench and hugging his giant bear. Sarah sat beside him, glancing at her phone. No messages. Nothing to signal that the world was unchanged, as if everything had paused in kindness right in front of him. "You know," Jake said, looking up at her, "I really was scared when that girl fell. But when you said helping was brave, I thought I could be brave, too." Sarah's heart swelled. "You are brave, Jake. Bravery isn't just about being tough. It's also about how we care for each other." The innocence in his eyes held her fiercely, reminding her of why they needed to be there together, facing whatever storms lay ahead. "Do you think we could help more people?" he asked, a hopeful glimmer shining in his eyes. The simplicity of his question shook her. "Absolutely, buddy. Kindness is like spreading ripples in a pond. The more we share it, the wider it goes. Just as they shared a knowing smile, laughter erupted from the direction of the Ferris wheel. Sarah's gaze was drawn toward it once again. How about we conquer our fear after all? Let us ride the Ferris wheel. Jake squealed with excitement, bouncing up from the bench with a renewed energy that made Sarah smile despite the flutter of nerves in her stomach. As they walked toward the towering ride, she couldn't help but feel that this moment was a step toward something bigger, a rebirth of trust in life itself. But as they approached the ride, the lights flickered, and for a moment, everything seemed to hold its breath. Mom? Jake paused, looking up at her with questioning eyes. What if something happens again? The question hung in the air. Sarah took a deep breath, thinking of Annie, the power of courage, and those ripples of kindness that had already begun to spread. Then we'll face it together, won't we? Together! Jake shouted, determination radiating from him. As they stepped towards the ride, taking on the swirl of uncertainty, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling something was still waiting to be uncovered, a test of their newfound bravery. She felt the thrill of the ride in her chest, but deep down, the storm was brewing, and she could sense it. What awaited them on the other side of this moment? As they approached the Ferris wheel, the sound of laughter and cheers surrounded them like an invisible blanket. The towering structure loomed above, its bright lights twinkling like stars against the evening sky. Sarah swallowed hard, pushing her unease aside. She had promised Jake they would ride. She didn't want to disappoint him, especially after their heartfelt moment earlier. Mom, look. It's so big. Jake exclaimed, bouncing on his toes. His excitement was contagious, pulling Sarah into its gravitational pull. She found herself smiling at his joyful expression, the fear within her gradually shifting into a swirl of anticipation. Yeah, it is pretty big, Sarah replied softly, trying to match his enthusiasm. She took his hand, feeling his small yet firm grip. That connection grounded her, reminding her that they were in this together. They approached the ticket booth, where vibrant banners flapped in the breeze. Sarah glanced at the other riders, some laughing and shouting with glee, while others held a delicate grip on the safety bar, faces painted with a mix of excitement and anxiety. It was a kaleidoscope of emotions, and Sarah could relate to them all. With tickets in hand, they climbed the wooden steps that led to the ride. Sarah's heart raced, each step a mix of fear and courage. She could feel Jake's energy buzzing beside her. Are we going to go all the way up? He asked, eyes wide with wonder. Yep. All the way to the top, she replied, unable to hide a chuckle. Once inside the brightly colored gondola, Sarah strapped them in, her fingers trembling slightly. Jake looked up at her, his face lit with joy, and she realized that this ride was more than just an amusement, it was a chance to confront her fears. As the Ferris wheel began to turn, they slowly ascended into the sky. The ground receded, and with it, the chaos below. Sarah's breath caught as they reached the pinnacle, the view sprawling before them like a patchwork quilt of carnival lights. It was breathtaking. Wow, Mom. Look at everything. Jake shouted, pointing in every direction. Sarah turned to look at him, and the sheer wonder on his face lit up her world. In that moment, the worries that had nagged at her faded into the background. Here they were, suspended in the air. Here was their moment of bravery. This is amazing. Sarah exclaimed, truly feeling it now. The high perch wasn't just about overcoming fear, it was about seeing life from a new angle. Just then, the wheel stopped at the top, and for a fleeting moment, everything stilled. Sarah's heart raced, not out of fear but exhilaration. Below, the carnival sparkled like a sea of lanterns. Jake's laughter echoed in the air, a sweet reminder of why they were there. Mom, are you okay? Jake's voice broke through her thoughts. Concern filled his young eyes. Yeah, buddy. I'm really okay, she replied, realizing that this was a defining moment for both of them. Look at us. We're on top of the world. But as the ride began to descend, the lights flickered again momentarily. A feeling of unease washed over her, reminiscent of earlier. She brushed it off, shaking her head. They were safe, right? What if the wheel stops again like before? Jake asked, clutching his bear a little tighter. Then we'll enjoy the view, just like now, she said, choosing to believe in the lightness of the moment. But deep inside, a stirring began. It felt like a wave rising, not just a fear of what could happen next but a sense that this was where true strength came from. Navigating the highs and lows, embracing both joy and fear. As the gondola reached the ground, a loud cheer erupted from riders. Jake joined in, his voice ringing with pure delight. But Sarah's heart raced for another reason. Something shifted inside, a whisper that urged her to pay attention. Something was about to change. What awaited them beyond the ride? Would the colors of this extraordinary day still weave together when faced with the unknown? A new chapter seemed ready to unfold. As they stepped off the Ferris wheel, Jake wobbled slightly, still buoyed by the thrill of their ride. Sarah felt her own legs a bit unsteady, but she brushed it off, grinning at her son's swirling energy. The carnival buzzed around them, filled with laughter and music, yet a strange weight pressed down on her chest. "Let us get some popcorn," Jake shouted, tugging her hand toward a nearby stand. His demeanor was infectious, the pure joy of a child at play, pushing her worries aside once again. But just as they approached the vendor, Sarah caught sight of a shadow creeping through the bright colors around her. "Mom?" Jake looked up, sensing her sudden shift in focus. "Yeah, buddy?" She tore her gaze away from the figure, trying to shake off the unease creeping back in. "Can we get extra butter?" he asked, his eyes wide with innocent excitement. "Sure thing." She managed a smile, though her heart was racing for other reasons. The shadow had vanished, but a feeling lingered. Was it paranoia? The lingering tension from their ride? She couldn't be sure. After buying the popcorn, they wandered to a quieter part of the carnival. The sounds faded slightly, replaced by the gentle rustle of leaves from nearby trees. This was a moment for them, just the two of them. "Mom, can we go on the bumper cars next?" Jake asked, his mouth half full of popcorn. "Absolutely," she replied, invigorated by his enthusiasm but wary of any remnants of her earlier fear. As they made their way to the bumper cars, Jake darted ahead, eyes sparkling. Sarah allowed herself a moment to breathe deeply, inhaling the scent of cotton candy and the warm summer air. It was a fleeting normalcy, the kind that felt precious and delicate. Yet, that shadowed figure popped back into her mind. What if something was wrong? What if she needed to be more vigilant? She shook her head. She had to let it go, at least for today. "Mom. Look." Jake's voice pulled her back from her thoughts. He had stopped in front of a mirror maze, grinning widely. "Can we go in?" "All right, let us squeeze a few laughs out of that," she agreed, anxiety momentarily forgotten. As they entered inside, the mirrors danced around them. Reflections multiplied, Jake's giggles reverberating off every surface. The fun of the moment washed over Sarah like a wave. She mirrored Jake's laughter, realizing how this day was indeed one of bravery and connection. Suddenly, they reached a corner where the mirrors warped their reflections into silly shapes. Jake squealed in delight, leaning into a reflection that stretched his head sky-high. "Look at me!" he yelled. For a moment, Sarah just watched him, her heart swelling. It felt good to let go of fears, even if just for a few moments. But as they moved deeper, a flicker of movement caught her eye in one of the mirrors. The shadow returned, not a mere figment of her imagination this time. A figure lurked just beyond their current passage. It made her heart skip, tightening her chest. Was she imagining things? "Mom?" Jake chirped, oblivious to the tension knitting his mother's brow. "Yeah, buddy, coming," she called back, but she took a cautious step toward where she thought she had seen the figure. The maze echoed her footsteps, pulsing with uncertainty. "Mom. Don't leave me." Jake's voice tinged with concern. "I'm right here," she reassured, fighting the instinct to flee. But as Sarah pivoted back to Jake, the feeling of being watched thickened in the air. She took a deep breath to quell the unease, but beneath the laughter and glittering lights, something felt starkly out of place. The maze's exit was sweetly lit ahead, but for the first time today, shadows whispered secrets that made her skin prickle. She moved toward Jake, but did she have the strength to confront whatever or whoever might be waiting on the other side? Just then, a laugh erupted from the dark corner of the maze, one that sounded far too familiar. She paused, heart racing. What awaited her beyond the reflections? Was this carnival truly a safe haven, or was something lurking deeper, threatening to unravel the joy she had just reclaimed? Sarah felt a shiver run down her spine as that laugh echoed in the mirror maze. It was a sound that reminded her of the past one she wished to forget. She hesitated, heart pounding like a drum against her ribcage. "Mom? What is it?" Jake's voice pulled her back to the present. He looked up at her, eyes wide with concern, still clutching his half-eaten popcorn. "It's nothing, sweetheart. Just a little dizzy," she lied, forcing a smile that felt more fragile than ever. "Let us keep moving." But a part of her wanted to investigate, to find the source of that laugh. What if it was just a coincidence? Then again, what if it wasn't he? "Mom, I want to go down the slide," Jake said, pointing toward the bright colors in the distance. The slide loomed over the carnival like a beacon of fun, demanding attention. She could feel the tension in her gut battling against Jake's innocence and joy. "Okay, buddy, let us check it out." As they navigated through the maze, Sarah stole glances at every corner. The laughter haunted her, growing louder and more distorted, echoing off the walls. It felt as though the mirrors were mocking her, showing her not just her reflections but her doubts. "Mom. Look." Jake waved excitedly, completely oblivious to the bizarre atmosphere surrounding them. She turned to see him pointing at the exit. A bright sunshine poured through the entrance, casting a warm glow over untangled messes of shadows. But it wasn't just sunlight that beckoned them. It was the laughter, loud now, and insistent. "Let us get out of here," she urged, almost pulling him along as they burst through the exit. Fresh air swooshed around them. The vibrant carnival spun back to life, sounds of joy dancing freely. Clowns juggled, children screamed with glee on the swings, and the rich aroma of funnel cakes wafted toward them. But as they stepped into that carefree world, a familiar figure loomed at the fringes, a man, with shoulders hunched and a baseball cap casting shadows over his eyes. He stood alone, an outlier in the whirlwind of laughter and colorful lights. Sarah's heart raced again. Her instinct screamed to pull Jake closer to her. "Who is that man, Mom?" Jake asked innocently, tugging on her sleeve. She hesitated, the words catching in her throat. "Just a stranger," she said, forcing herself to sound casual. Jake seemed to sense something was off. "Can we go to the slide now?" "Sure, buddy," she said, trying to mask her unease as they made their way toward the massive structure. The line was long, filled with children bouncing on their toes. For a fleeting moment, Sarah let herself feel the warmth of normalcy wash over her again. But as they approached the platform, she glanced back at the man. He hadn't moved from his spot, his piercing gaze locked on her. It sent a wave of nausea rolling through her. "Mom!" Jake cried out. "Can I go first, please?" His eagerness broke through her growing fear. "Okay, but be careful," she cautioned, forcing her voice to be light. As Jake scampered up the steps, she squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, taking a deep breath. She couldn't let fear steal this day away from them. Not again. Jake hooped and screamed as he flew down the slide, but the joy of his exhilaration couldn't quite pierce through Sarah's anxiety. She scanned for that lurking figure. He was gone. The emptiness of feeling watched pressed down again. It was as if he had never been there, and yet, the echo of his laughter remained in the back of her mind, unsettling and unfamiliar. Another rumble of laughter caught her ear, not from Jake, but from the very spot the man had stood. "Mom!" Jake called, waving her over. She forced a smile as she joined him, all while her heart ached with a deep-rooted dread. Once they reached the ground, Jake tugged her toward the carousel. "Let us go, Mom. This is the best day ever." "Yeah, the best." she replied, though her voice held an uncertainty that was hard to hide. They climbed onto a colorful horse, Jake bouncing with excitement, but the moment felt distorted. Then, as the carousel began to spin, a chilling laugh echoed in the air. Again, louder this time. Was it just a trick her mind was playing? But deep down, a fear churned. What secrets were buried in the shadows, and would they reach the surface? She gripped the carousel pole tightly, feeling like she was losing control. What else lay waiting beyond the bright carnival lights? And could she protect Jake from whatever darkness was creeping ever closer? The carousel spun faster, the lights blurring into streaks of color around Sarah and Jake. She felt as though she was trapped in a dream, the laughter amplifying the sense of dread gnawing at her. Jake's laughter sounded distant, like it came from another world altogether, drowned out by the chilling echoes of a past she wished to escape. "Mom. Look at me." Jake's bright voice cut through her fog. He was waving, his small hands barely reaching the horse's mane. She forced a smile, trying to summon the warmth she had felt just moments ago. But as the carousel twirled, her heartbeat synced with the frantic rhythm of the music. Her mind raced back to that laugh, twisting memories she thought were buried. It was as if that sound were an unwelcome guest, reintroducing her to fears long stowed away. She couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching. When they finally stepped off, the ground felt unsteady beneath her. Jake bounced on the balls of his feet, glowing with joy. "Can we go again, Mom? Please? Let us take a break first, okay?" she said, struggling to sound cheerful. "How about some cotton candy? You love that." "Yay! Cotton candy!" Jake cheered, his excitement infectious. She smiled for him, but it faltered under the weight of her anxiety. There was a gnawing feeling that somehow, something was wrong, like an itch she couldn't scratch. As they wandered toward the stand, the laughter returned, buoyant and carefree, too carefree. Sarah's pulse quickened again. She turned, scanning the crowd. Dancers, partygoers, and clowns swirled around them, but her eyes landed on a familiar figure, the man from before. He was closer now, slipping through the sea of laughter and bright lights. "Jake, stay close," she said, instinctively pulling him closer. "Why, Mom?" he asked, glancing back. "I want to see the magic show." Just hold my hand, okay?" she answered, feeling the need to protect him intensify. As they approached the cotton candy stand, she couldn't shake the feeling that the man was following them. A deep breath almost steadied her heart, but the thrill of carnival delight was eroded by her simmering dread. The man edged into the throng, and Sarah felt his eyes like pinpricks against her back. "Here you go." The cotton candy vendor's jovial tone momentarily pulled her from her spiral. She fished out some bills and handed them over, grateful for the distraction. Jake's eyes glimmered as the vendor handed him a fluffy pink cloud of sugar. He giggled, taking a big bite, completely unaware of the shadows creeping closer. Sarah found herself peering around, tension coiling tighter in her stomach. Then, she heard it again, a low, mocking laughter blending with the chorus of carnival sounds. It was closer now, as if it were in her ear, chilling her bones. "Mom?" Jake's voice trembled through the sweet haze of sugar. "I don't want to be here anymore." His innocent fear broke her heart. She forced a smile, but inside, she was crumbling. "Just a little while longer, honey. We'll find something fun to do," she said, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. "Can we go back to the slides?" he asked, his blonde brows knitting together. Before she could respond, a shadow loomed closer. It was that man again, standing just behind Jake. She felt her breath catch, panic rising. He was so still, and for one terrifying moment, everything froze in time. The world around them faded, and she was back in that moment of her past, where shadows ran darker than light. "Mom!" Jake's cry broke the spell. Sarah turned, clutching his hand tighter, desperate to shield him from the threat. But when she looked again, the man was gone, vanished into the bustle of joyful chaos. Cold dread washed over her. Where had he gone? The laughter faded into a whisper on the wind, and Sarah knew she had to act. They needed to leave this place before whatever darkness loomed caught up with them. "Jake, we need to go. Right now," she urged, pulling him toward the exit. Her heart pounded faster than her feet could carry her. As they raced through the throngs of merriment, one thought gripped her with icy fingers: who was that man, and what did he want with them? The carnival lights flickered, casting a curtain of shadows, and in those shadows, secrets waited. What lay ahead? Did she have the strength to face it? As Sarah and Jake surged through the carnival, adrenaline surged through her veins, a desperate urge to shield her son from whatever darkness trailed behind them. Jake's small hand gripped hers tightly, his body vibrating with confusion and fear. "Mom, why are we running?" he asked, breathless and wide-eyed. The innocence in his voice cut through her anxiety like a knife. "There's just a bit of a crowd ahead," she replied, forcing a smile, desperate to mask her own panic. But in truth, she could feel the shadow lurking, an echo of her past, that laugh twisting her gut. "Let us find a quieter spot." They turned a corner, and the vibrant sounds of the fair diminished into a sweet but hollow tune. Near a small grove of trees, they slumped onto a bench, the wild rhythm of their hearts slowly starting to steady. Jake looked up at her, concern etched in his features, a mirror of her own feelings. "Mom, are you okay?" She took a deep breath, trying to find the words. "I'm okay. Just a little overwhelmed," she admitted. The honesty felt grounding. As soon as the words slipped out, a wave of relief surged. "But you know what? We're together. That makes us stronger." Jake nodded, and though the tension in his small shoulders remained, there was a flicker of comfort in his gaze. They both needed that. Here was their time to reconnect, to fortify themselves against the troubles swirling around. "Can we go back? I want to ride the Ferris wheel again," he chirped, as though the idea could erase the unease. Sarah felt warmth rise in her chest despite her fears. "Of course. If that's what you want, then we'll ride it again." As they walked back, the carnival came to life again. The smells of popcorn and cotton candy wafted towards them like a delicious embrace. Children ran, laughter rippled through the air, and for a moment, Sarah felt the joy simmer beneath her worries. Still, the shadow loomed in the recesses of her mind. Once they reached the Ferris wheel, they were met with a chorus of joyous cries. People laughed and screamed from the top, and Jake tugged her hand, eagerness radiating. "Let us go, Mom." As they climbed into the gondola and buckled in, the air felt lighter. The wheel began to ascend once more, carrying them higher into the glowing night. The lights below danced like fireflies in a summer sky, and Sarah soaked in the view, her heart lifting with each rotation. "Look, Mom. We can see everything," Jake exclaimed, beaming. In that moment, Sarah saw the beauty that had once eluded them. Together, they were taking charge of their story, rewriting it with every exhilarating turn. But then, just as they reached the peak, the ambience shifted. A familiar laughter echoed, chilling her to the bone. She froze, glancing around. Fear struck like a whip, and she steeled herself, gripping the bar tightly as she faced the world below. "Stay close, Jake," she whispered, every sense on high alert. "I'm right here," he replied with unfaltering trust, blissfully unaware of the shadows around them. The gondola began its descent, and Sarah felt everything tumble to fears, the worries melting away like ice in the sun. This was who they were now, a team. As they stepped off, the shadow pursued closer, hungry to bleed into their moment. It was then that she finally came face to face with that figure, his presence almost suffocating. But Jake recognized it first and squealed. "Mom. Look. It's Uncle Michael." The shock hit her like a brick. Uncle Michael? She hadn't seen him since her father's funeral, and the wince in her heart at his sudden appearance was overshadowed by pure relief. He rushed toward them with open arms, a broad smile gracing his weary face. "I heard you were at the fair. Thought I'd surprise you." All anxiety drained from her being. She hadn't realized how much she had missed him. With those words, he dissolved the tension surrounding them, banishing the shadows lurking just behind. You're just in time for the next ride. Want to join us? He asked, kneeling down to Jake's level. Yes. Please. Jake yelled, thrilled to see a family member. As they made their way to the next ride, Sarah felt an incredible weight lift. The laughter was no longer haunting. It was warm, vibrant, and full of life. They were finally reclaiming their joy. Together, we'll face whatever comes. No more running. Sarah whispered to herself, the words blooming into reality. As they joined in the chaos of laughter and delight, the world around them came alive, bursting with possibility. What had once seemed like a dark storm had blossomed into a colorful tapestry, vibrant and hopeful. And in her heart, she knew, whatever the future may hold, she and Jake would face it together, forging their own path into the light. Now more than ever, unity felt like their greatest strength, a bond unshakable and fiercely protective. So, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories, because true fans like you need to be in the loop. Don't wait another second. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm with love. And comment below your reactions and feelings about this heartfelt ending. Remember, share this journey with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let them feel this inspiring connection too.